Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Barbara Canales, Nueces County Judge. We have some remarks today for you and a run of show, and I will begin. Now, over the Thanksgiving holiday, the World Health Community learned of a new variant of the coronavirus. Today, here in Commissioner's Courtroom, I'll be joined by Mayor Guajardo, Health Director Annette Rodriguez, Dr. Bird, and members of our local healthcare community. And I'd like to identify those for the media now. We have Dr. Onifrak, Dr. Ramesh Gurjuni, and also Dr. Blow. Dr. Osbert Blow is with Krista Spahn. Of course, Dr. Ram, we affectionately call him that, is our local health authority. He's also an infectious disease specialist. And Dr. O is also one of our assistant local health directors and health authorities working with Nueces County and the city of Corpus Christi. Together, we are here for a unified message, and that is to tell you what we know so far and what we don't yet know, and what you can do to protect you and your family from this new variant, especially as we come to a very important time of the year, our holiday season. So let's begin with what we do know. On Friday, November 26th, 2021, the World Health Organization, the WHO, classified a new variant, and this is technically called B11529. And they classify these variants in a variety of ways, and this one is called a variant of concern. And it actually has a name, and that name is Omicron. So no cases of this variant, as of today, have been identified in the United States. However, I just checked my, latest internet sweep, and we already see it in Latin America, and Canada has already identified many cases, not many, but at least 6 more today, I think, of Omicron. So what we know is Omicron is inside North America. As I was saying, that while we have not had any identified in the U.S. to date, CDC is following the details of this new variant very closely. And it was first reported to the World Health Organization by South Africa. Now, the CDC is continuously monitoring variants, and the U.S. variant surveillance system has reliably detected new variants in this country quite quickly. The CDC expects Omicron to be identified quickly if it emerges in the United States. The whole world is watching. The whole world is watching in specific for this variant, and they're studying it and closely trying to understand it and what will it mean for our public health. Early reports from South Africa indicate that this variant spreads more easily, but produces symptoms which are less severe. But as I said, we're all learning about it. If that holds true, easier to spread but less severe on the face of it may be not so bad. However, many people getting slightly sick, if there are many people for whom a minor illness is a life-threatening situation, and those are all of those folks living with comorbidities. And so we need to be thoughtful about the information as it comes out. A variant that spreads very easily can pose a deadly risk to those vulnerable people. We also don't know exactly how effective these current vaccines are against this new variant, and they'll be testing that very soon. Now, researchers in Israel say that while they're working to get more accurate information about the efficacy of the vaccine against Omicron, there's already room for optimism, and I like that. Researchers in Israel have indicated, these initial indications show that those who are vaccinated with the vaccine that's still valid, meaning one that is current, they have antibodies, and they have potentially even received a booster. Either the vaccinated and those with boosters can be protected from this variant. So here's what we know that can be done. Well, we know already from all of our history, we know that we can prevent the spread of COVID-19. CDC recommends people follow prevention strategies at this time, and they're all the same ones that we've known from the last 2 years. Wearing a mask in public indoor settings, washing hands frequently, physically distancing. Those are those famous 3 W's. And so whether you're wearing a mask, washing your hands, or watching your distance, we know this works. It's effective. And even though we don't know exactly how effective the vaccines are against the Omicron variant, we do know that they will provide protection, some protection, against Omicron. and excellent protection against the Delta variant, which is the variant that caused so much havoc here in Nueces County this past year. This is by far the most prevalent virus that we have today. But we need to keep our eye on Omicron. So the most important thing you can do, the one lesson from today, is get vaccinated. And if you're already vaccinated, get boosted. In other words, go get your booster shot. And later you'll hear about all the amazing locations we have throughout our county to get a booster shot or to get your first vaccination or your second, whichever the case may be, fast, safe, and easy. Now, the CDC recommends that everyone 5 years and older protect themselves from COVID-19 by getting fully vaccinated. What does that mean? It means for Moderna and Pfizer, 2 shots plus the booster after a specific amount of time, 6 months. For J&J, it's the 1 shot and then your booster, and you are allowed to mix and match. CDC is also encouraging a COVID-19 vaccine booster for those who are eligible, and that is everybody over 18. So while all of us were on Thanksgiving break, right before Thanksgiving, there was a big announcement. And that big announcement was that the CDC says that it encourages all who are 18 and older, regardless of health conditions, to receive that vaccine booster dose when it's your time. So, when is it your time? Let's go over that again. Well, if you've had the Pfizer or Moderna, you're going to want to get your booster 6 months after that last vaccine. You're eligible after 6 months. If you have that single shot of Johnson & Johnson, it'll be 2 months. So 6 months for Pfizer and Moderna, 2 months for J&J. And as I said earlier, it's not just for stockings. You can mix and match these vaccines, and they're safe. You can choose any booster you want, or you can choose to get a booster shot of the same exact variety, same vaccine that you originally got. Now, what else can you do? Because this press conference is all about preparedness. What can we do to get ready? You can monitor your health. If you have symptoms, you want to get tested as fast as you can so that you can isolate and protect others. The earlier you discover you have COVID-19, the earlier you can get treated with monoclonal antibodies. But they don't work so great when you are very ill and in the hospital. You want to be in those early days, those first 10 days, to receive that monoclonal antibody. You want to avoid big crowds as much as possible, whether shopping, dining, or entertaining, if you're not fully protected. And above all, please stay informed. That's what we are doing here today, and you want to keep that public messaging going. If you have any travel planned, there are restrictions that you need to learn about, and I would advise you to jump on our website at City County Public Health, or the airlines also have great information because there are restrictions against travel to and from certain African countries and many other international destinations. Things are changing rapidly in the international scene, and they're adopting new testing and quarantine procedures. Now, we say this word all the time. It's a fluid situation. What does that really mean? Well, it means that you need to stay tuned because things change quickly when it comes to these viruses, and particularly with the variant. The new Omicron variant, that's the 15th letter of that Greek alphabet, so that shows you how many times we've had changes, is a fluid situation. And the one thing that seems certain is that this variant will find its way to us. That always pains me to say that, but it seems that this is our reality. So it will find its way to the United States, most likely. It will find its way to Texas. And it is very foreseeable that it will find its way to Nueces County at some point in the near future. And I've just finished court, and so I thank everybody for being in our courtroom. It allowed us an easy transition. And so I'm reminded of a famous lawyer named Clarence Darrow. Almost every young lawyer admires Clarence Darrow. And Clarence Darrow said this. He said, history repeats itself. And that's one of the things that's wrong with history. But other great jurists have said that sometimes history repeats itself and sometimes it doesn't. And our job in public health and in emergency management and in leadership is to get ready. And so I want to tell you that we're here because we need to be concerned. No different than when we're watching a system in the Bay of Campeche, knowing that it's going to come to the Gulf of Mexico. It's the same type of feeling. To be in emergency management and public health in a public health emergency is to understand when you need to be prepared. And so to be prepared is half the victory. Estar preparada es la mitad de la victoria. That was a beautifully written line by Miguel de Cervantes, the famous author of Don Quixote, and it says it all. You want to win? Get prepared, because that's half the battle. So I want to tell you that I'm here today, and my colleagues and healthcare professionals are here with us today, not to cause panic. It is just that we are concerned about being prepared. And I want to urge everybody in Nueces County to get vaccinated, get boosted, monitor your health, practice those great safety precautions, those 3 W's, so that we can be prepared as much as possible. That is how we keep our community healthy. That is how we can get our community strong. And things are going to materialize over the next few weeks, and they're at the time of year when we're all moving around. So I want you to know that you can count on us, both the city and the county, public health, healthcare professionals, to get you the information that you need. Now, I want to leave you with one additional piece of information. And if there is such a thing as Nueces County breaking news, this is it. And it comes to us from the real breaking news from CNN. And that's literally 30 minutes ago. The FDA Antimicrobial Drug Advisory Committee just approved the emergency use of a new Merck Pill to battle COVID-19's symptoms. And if it's used within 5 days of the symptoms, twice a day for 5 days, it does show some efficacy with regards to severe illness and 30% less death. Now, it's in a committee. From that committee, from the Antimicrobial Committee, it goes to the big FDA committee. From the FDA committee, it goes to the CDC. And if it gets to there, then it'll hit Texas Dishes, and then it'll hit her plate. So it's got some room to move before we actually announce it. Why do I mention this as I close? Well, this particular antiviral is the only pill that we have. We have another antiviral, remember? Remdesivir, right? But in remdesivir, Dr. Blow is infused, if I remember correctly, not orally taken as a pill. So this is big news. And so we need to be mindful that this new antiviral, and they give us new words to practice, it seems, every 6 months, but this one looks like it could be pronounced molnupiravir. And molnupiravir is the name given to this new Merck drug, this new pill that might have this possibility of having FDA emergency use authorization approval. And it will also be a, no pun intended, boost to our community and our society if it becomes, if it moves through that process to assist us all. The one thing that I've learned over the past 2 years is that there is no challenge too big for all of us to deal with if we do it together. That's really been the bottom line. Everybody gets into the holiday season with the year in review or their Christmas cards where they tell you all about your year of challenges and joys and triumphs and tragedies. Well, mine is just really down to one word, and that is the word team. If you believe in it, really believe in it, you can do anything. I'm here today to ask all of us to really answer the call of being a team, because I don't want to see history repeat itself. I want to thank you for being here, and I'd like to, at this time, introduce to you under our program, I want to double check this, but I believe it's Mayor Guajardo, but please give Gabi a chance to do some translation, and then we'll ask you to the podium, and then after Mayor Guajardo, We'll have Annette Rodriguez, Dr. Ram, Dr. Blow, and finally Dr. Bird. Again, it's a real, as they say, COVID-19 press briefing, so bear with us. You need to hear from all of these individuals because I've just announced now our winning team. Thank you.
Durante los días feriados por Acción de Gracias, la Comunidad Mundial de Salud se enteró de una nueva variante del coronavirus. El viernes 26 de noviembre del 2021, la Organización Mundial de Salud, o OMS, clasificó a la nueva variante como de preocupación denominada Omicron. Hasta la fecha no se han identificado casos de esta variante en los Estados Unidos. El Centro para Control de Enfermedades monitorea continuamente las variantes y se estima que llegue pronto a nuestro país. Los primeros informes de Sudáfrica indican que esta variante se propaga más fácilmente, pero produce síntomas que son menos graves. Tampoco sabemos exactamente qué tan efectivas son nuestras vacunas actuales contra esta nueva variante del virus. Las indicaciones iniciales muestran que aquellos que están vacunados con una vacuna que aún es válida, lo que significa que aún tienen anticuerpos o que han recibido un refuerzo, también estarán protegidos de esta variante. El Centro para Control de Enfermedades, o CDC, continúa realizando las mismas recomendaciones sanitarias. Utilice un cubrebocas cuando esté en público, lave sus manos con frecuencia y practique el distanciamiento social. Los CDC recomiendan que todas las personas mayores de 5 años se protejan del COVID-19 vacunándose completamente, al igual que tomar la vacuna de refuerzo cuando sea elegible, 6 meses después de la segunda dosis de las vacunas Moderna o Pfizer y 2 meses después de la vacuna Johnson & Johnson. Otras medidas de prevención del contagio son: controle su salud si tiene síntomas, hágase una prueba si resulta positivo, reciba tratamiento con anticuerpos monoclonales, evite las multitudes tanto como sea posible. Manténgase informado, especialmente si tiene planeado algún viaje. Existen restricciones para viajar hacia y desde ciertos países africanos y muchos otros destinos internacionales están adoptando nuevos procedimientos de prueba y cuarentena. Esta variante va a encontrar cómo llegar a nuestro estado, así que es mejor estar preparado. Se estima también tener pronto la aprobación de una pastilla antiviral para aminorar los síntomas del virus.
Okay. Thank you, Gabby. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mayor Paulette Guajardo. And for those of you who may just be joining us on YouTube, KEDT radio, or any other outlet, we're hosting today's press conference as a result of the discovery of a new COVID-19 variant, as was just explained. On November 26, just a few days ago, the World Health Organization identified a new variant of concern, Omicron. This variant was discovered by researchers in South Africa, and it's been found in multiple countries. The Omicron variant has several mutations that have an impact on how the COVID-19 virus behaves. The City County Health Department is intensely gathering information, and we're closely monitoring updates daily and by the hour. And as your mayor, I want to encourage you, as was said earlier, to get a vaccine. Those who want a vaccine, those who weren't sure about getting a vaccine, now's the time to do so. According to current available information, the COVID-19 Omicron variant may pose an increased risk to our community. But health professionals and researchers are still gathering that information, which we will relate to you as we get it. And in response to this new variant, I want to again remind the community that COVID-19 vaccines are readily available throughout the city. And our teams, both the city and the county, stand ready to assist you with that. We must stand together as a community to ensure the public health of all of us. And we can do this, as was mentioned and stressed, by increasing the vaccination rate in our community. Based on information from our health director yesterday, we're fortunate in Corpus Christi and Nueces County that the variant has not been detected in our community yet. So we have an opportunity to act now. And that opportunity is the COVID-19 vaccination. We have a short window of time, similar to that of knowing we have a hurricane coming and preparing for it. And you heard that word. Now we know it's coming. So we have a heads up, if you will. So we are going to be stressing through the next, however long it takes, to get your vaccination, get your third booster shot, get your third dose at one of the very convenient places that are listed on both websites, Nueces County as well as the city's website. And I believe both facilities also are vaccinating here at the courthouse as well as at City Hall. This is doing our part and also following CDC guidelines so that we can keep Corpus Christi safe. Our Public Health Director, Annette Rodriguez, and Local Health Authority, Dr. Ram, will speak more about the variant in just a few minutes. But I will briefly share that it is not yet clear whether the Omicron variant is more severe compared to other variants. There is currently no information to suggest that symptoms associated with Omicron are different from those from other variants, but we simply do not know. However, as we are all aware after facing the disease for almost 2 years now, any variant of COVID-19 can cause serious illness or death, and preventative measures are key to protecting yourself and others. The Corpus Christi Nueces County Health Department continues to make, as said, vaccines available to you at no cost. And as always, you can get that vaccination at one particular place, which is very convenient for most people, which is at La Palmera Mall because of the hours of operation, which is located catty-cornered from Grimaldi's Pizza. And of course, we continue to offer free transportation via our RTA to and from La Palmera Mall for that vaccination. I also want to remind everyone that our Saving Our Seniors program is still in effect. So if you know someone who needs to be vaccinated, needs a booster shot or needs a third dose, you can still call 361-826-CITY. That's 361-826-2489 and make that appointment for your loved one or friend to be vaccinated in the comfort of their home. To date, our firefighters have administered over 5,000 of those vaccinations in home through our Saving Our Seniors program. So I want to just encourage people that it is still available and very, very convenient. So in conclusion, I just want to urge you all to stay vigilant. We will be facing another wave of virus, but now we know it's coming. And we know that vaccinations can and do save lives. So please do your part and consider getting your vaccination, your booster shot, or your third dose. Thank you very much.
El Departamento de Salud recopila toda la información relacionada a la variante Omicron. Quiero exhortar a los residentes que aún no se han vacunado que lo hagan, ya que esta variante es un riesgo para nuestra comunidad. Las vacunas están disponibles y nuestro equipo está listo para ayudarlo. Necesitamos trabajar juntos como comunidad para garantizar la salud pública, especialmente para nuestros adultos mayores y aquellos con trastornos de inmunodeficiencia. Hace solo unos días, la Organización Mundial de la Salud identificó la variante Omicron, descubierta en Sudáfrica y ahora se encuentra en otros países. Aún se desconoce la gravedad de esta variante. No está claro si la infección por Omicron es más grave en comparación a otras variantes. El Departamento de Salud continúa poniendo a su disposición vacunas sin costo alguno. Existen diferentes clínicas en todo el condado. La más concurrida es el Centro Comercial La Palmera, abierta todos los días. Todas las ubicaciones se pueden encontrar en la página de inicio de la ciudad a la dirección www.cctexas.com. En cuanto al transporte, los autobuses del RTA continúan ofreciendo transporte gratuito a las personas que acuden al centro comercial. Solo indíquele al conductor que va a la clínica y su viaje será gratuito. Sobre el programa SOS o Salvando a Nuestros Adultos Mayores, si usted necesita realizar una cita, puede llamar al 826-CITY, o sea, 826-2489. Los bomberos de la ciudad han administrado más de 5,000 vacunas hasta la fecha. En conclusión, debemos estar mucho más atentos con esta nueva variante, ya que Omicron representa una amenaza significativa para nuestra comunidad, especialmente para nuestros adultos mayores y aquellos con sistemas inmunológicos débiles. Por favor, haga su parte para mantenerlo a usted y a quienes lo rodean a salvo.
Good afternoon, Annette Rodriguez, Health Director. So I know there are a great number of questions about the new variant Omicron that's emerging out of South Africa. Omicron has been named by the World Health Organization, as mentioned by both the judge and the mayor, as a variant of concern. It's only the 5th variant of concern that's been named by the WHO. And the reason they name it as a variant of concern is because this means that there's scientific evidence of a threat. This variant has the most mutations that we have seen on the spike protein, with a total of 32 mutations found so far. The gene actually has over 5,000 genes on the spike protein. And Dr. Ramachandruni, our local health authority for the City County Health District, is going to talk more about these mutations. Here are the most important things to be listening for as we learn more about the Omicron variant. Next slide. So, does it spread from one person to another easily? That's what everybody's wanting to know. How quickly does it spread? Is it very transmissible? So also, can it evade immunity from the vaccines or from the natural immunity of actually getting COVID-19? And finally, how pathogenic is this new variant? Next slide. So I'm going to start with how well does it spread. The first case was identified on November 11th in Botswana. And since then, which has been 19 days since then, 19 days later, we have had at least 26 countries that have identified cases of this new variant. The rapid spike in cases in South Africa is also very concerning and has us all watching it very closely. Can it evade the protection we get from the vaccines or natural immunity? The answer in South Africa seems to be yes, it does. But the population in South Africa is not indicative of the rest of the world. South Africa has about 25% of its population fully vaccinated, while Nueces County has about 52% of our population fully vaccinated. The concern we have in Nueces County is that we have about 50% of our population that is not vaccinated. And we do know from the South Africa numbers that about 65% of the cases were among those not vaccinated. So this would be a really good time to get vaccinated if you have not done so. And finally, how pathogenic is this new variant? Which means how severe is the virus going to be if we actually pick up the Omicron? The verdict is still out on this very important question. And this is one of the most important of the three questions because, based on pathogenic or virulence, this virus could help us or it could harm a lot of people. And why do I say it could help us? The reason I made the statement that it could help us is because if it's very transmissible and it's transmitted to all parts of the world at the same time or very close in time frame, the Delta variant actually took 3 to 4 months to spread globally. So we're going to kind of base this transmission based off of the Delta. Is it going to be more transmissible than the Delta or less? But if it spreads very quickly, but it's not very pathogenic, and you don't get a very severe disease from it, you could actually build up herd immunity among all of us, and then we could actually go into what we're hoping into an endemic phase. Instead of a pandemic phase that we're in right now, it would be more endemic. But unfortunately, if the variant turns out to cause severe illness, it could quickly spread to our most vulnerable populations, as the judge mentioned, and could cause hospitalizations and even death for many people. So the severity is being watched very carefully, and we should know more about the severity of illness in just a few weeks. The emergence of the Omicron has already led to worldwide travel restrictions, high-level government meetings, and promises by vaccine makers to start working on a strain, specific vaccines for just-in-case scenarios. The Omicron has been detected again in the 26 countries, including South Africa, Botswana, Belgium, the Netherlands, Australia, Europe, the UK, Italy, Israel, Hong Kong, and Canada, to name a few. No cases of the new variant have been reported in the United States as of right now. But we know from history that Omicron is already likely to be here and just has not been genosequenced and identified as such. Next slide. So what does this all mean? It simply means to use everything in your toolbox to keep yourself safe. And everybody knows what those things are, but I'm going to go over them just in case. So don't just social distance. So some people think if I social distance, I'll be fine. But you're trying to social distance and somebody else comes right on top of you and they start coughing. So that didn't work. So don't just social distance or just wear a mask. but do all of the public health measures to decrease your chances of getting the virus. This means social distancing, wearing a mask properly to cover your nose and mouth, keeping your hands clean, not touching your eyes or nose with contaminated hands, staying home when sick, and isolating yourself from other family members to not get them sick as well. In addition, getting tested when you're sick, decrease the amount of time spent in congregate settings, visit with friends and coworkers in an outside, well-ventilated space if at all possible. Getting fully vaccinated and getting your booster shot 6 months after your final COVID dose or 2 months after your J&J vaccine if you are 18 years of age or older. Remember, boosters are only for 18 years of age and older. The booster is there to help increase your immune system and to take it back up to the maximum protection needed, especially now with the new, more transmissible variant looming. So don't wait until we announce Omicron is here in our community. It's here in Nueces County. Do them all now so that you are ready and as protected as possible against this new variant. As we learn more about this variant and whether it can evade diagnostic, treatment, and current vaccines, we will share the information with you. We are still a unified health district and will continue to do our part to save as many lives as possible. Stay informed and, as always, stay safe. Thank you. I will now turn it over to Dr. Ramachandruni.
Esta variante tiene la mayor cantidad de genes mutantes, hasta 32, por eso es de preocupación para la comunidad médica. Se cree que es altamente transmisible desde principios del principio de este mes, identificada en Botswana. Se ha diseminado ya a varios países. Sudáfrica cuenta con el 25% de su población completamente vacunada, en comparación a más del 50% en el condado de Nueces de personas que ya están vacunadas. ¿Qué tan severo puede ser la enfermedad de este virus? Aún no se sabe, pero sí se sabe que su facilidad de transmisión. Pero esperamos, entre más personas se vacunen, entremos así a una endemia en lugar de continuar en la pandemia. Esta variante ha provocado restricciones en viajes internacionales. Otros países en Europa ya reportan la presencia del virus, aunque aún no en los Estados Unidos. Entre más medidas de precaución tome, tendrá una mayor protección para evitar el contagio. Evite así su propagación. Evite también encontrarse entre multitudes. Vacúnese si aún no lo ha hecho y tome la vacuna de refuerzo cuando sea elegible. Protéjase de esta nueva variante. En cuanto tengamos más información y más detalles, se los daremos a conocer.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Srikanth Ramachandruni, Local Health Authority and Infectious Disease Specialist. I'm going to talk about Omicron variant and why we are worried so much. So the original COVID-19 virus from Wuhan, China, over the period of time started replicating and acquiring mutations. And we call them different names by alpha, delta, beta, and now Omicron variant. When it acquires mutations, we call them as variants. So mutations can make a change in the shape of the virus and spike protein. So mutations also can make the virus either stronger or weaker. Stronger ones will survive and go on to become variants in the real world. This particular variant, Omicron, is all in one. And these are all mutations, all combined in the previous variants. Put together is Omicron variant. And that is why we're all worried. The whole world is worried. As you can look at the slide, there are about 23 mutations in the alpha variant and 17 mutations in the delta variant. And Omicron has about 50 mutations. And out of those 50 mutations, 32 of them are in the spike protein. That is where it attaches to the cell. And 7 of them were in delta in comparison. And out of those 32 mutations in the spike protein, 10 of them are in the binding domain, where there were only 2 in delta. So the delta was more contagious. You can imagine Omicron, as we can see in the real world, there were so many cases that we've seen in the last 2 weeks in South Africa. It seems to be more contagious, just like Delta. And what we know right now with regards to the diagnostics, RT-PCR tests will be able to detect the Omicron variant. but we're not so sure about the rapid antigen tests or home kit tests. As you all know, we make vaccine, the vaccine makes antibodies against the spike proteins. But the good news is, so far, the vaccines seem to work against all the variants, alpha, beta, delta, so far. But remember, these vaccines were made before the variants emerged. So the reason is the memory cells, T cells and B cells in our body will be able to provide broader immunity against all the variants. So we think vaccines will offer best protection against the death and severe illness. So we've been worried about all along about this potential new and dangerous variants. So I think it's sad to say, but it's a bad news for the unvaccinated if it turns out to be what we think it is. So in the next 4 weeks, we'll have more information regarding the risk that this variant poses. And so this is our 4 weeks heads-up notice. With that, I urge every unvaccinated adult and kids above age group 5 immediately complete the vaccination series before this Omicron hits our doorsteps. Now I would like to invite Dr. Blow, President of Christus Spohn Hospitals. Thank you.
La variante Delta ha tenido varias mutaciones llegando a Omicron. Estas mutaciones cambian la forma física del virus. Omicron cuenta con varias mutaciones, más de 50, especialmente en el pico, el cual se adhiere a las células. Lo que sabemos es que la prueba PCR puede detectar Omicron. Las vacunas, al parecer, continúan siendo efectivas a las variantes, aunque continúa preocupándonos, especialmente las personas que no se han vacunado. Exhorto a todas aquellas personas que aún no se han vacunado que lo hagan lo más pronto posible.
Thank you for inviting me, Judge. And I am very proud to be a member of the team, those of us who seem to be in our third inning, potentially, of a pandemic. I am Osbert Blow, and I am the CEO of the Christus Spohn Health System. And my role for being up here today is really in that capacity, as a concerned citizen, as a physician, as a trauma surgeon. I know that you've heard a lot of information. It's a lot to take in, and it's very, very important that you do. I think as a surgeon, I like to make things simple, and I think the bottom line message is, if you're not vaccinated, you need to get vaccinated. It's not just a choice you make for yourself, it's a choice you make for your family, and it's a choice you make for your community, and it's a choice you make for your healthcare system. And the non-vaccinated pandemic surge that we experienced just recently did not just, sadly enough, impact those patients, those families, but impacted our ability to care for other people in our community. There is a collateral effect when there is a surge on any healthcare system. I'm here to tell you that, as we have been in the first two pandemics, we will continue to be here to support the excellent work of what I believe is a great team of a county, city health department. We have done that by providing excellent testing. We've done that by providing excellent antibiotic therapy, vaccination sites throughout all of our county, under leadership that has been unparalleled in a very unprecedented time. So I thank you for that, Judge. And I want you to know, as I do the community to know, that we will continue to support every effort that we are called upon to do. And as I am here, I want to communicate with everyone that vaccines continue to be offered at the medical office building across from the Shoreline campus, Monday through Thursday for adults from 9 to 5. And we also have vaccines for children, even though we're an adult facility. But we are providing that, and that is on Fridays from 10 to 6 to accommodate school hours and after school hours. I encourage you, I implore you to please, if you are not vaccinated, get vaccinated. And as you heard everyone before me say, yes, we do not know what this variant will bring, but what we do know, it will not be anything good. So please get vaccinated. Thank you.
Mi mensaje principal es vacunarse. Es una opción que le va a ayudar a usted y a su familia, así como al resto de la comunidad. Además de que es un factor que va a impactar a la comunidad médica. Contamos con un excelente equipo en la ciudad y el condado. Hemos llevado a cabo increíbles clínicas de vacunación y continuaremos apoyando a todas esas agencias para vacunar. También estamos proveyendo con vacunas a menores de edad y le exhorto a usted que se vacune si aún no lo ha hecho.
This time I'd like to introduce Dr. Bird to come up, and thank you very much.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Chris Bird. I'm here to speak to you on behalf of the Texas A&M University Corpus Christi Pandemic Modeling Team. Next slide. We have two objectives. You can hit the next slide button. Perfect. To answer your questions and to enable evidence-based decision-making on behalf of our local leaders. Next. Okay, so we're going to answer some questions. Maybe this was already covered, but we're going to cover it again. So why did Omicron get a letter and it's pronounced Omicron in the United States, or Omicron if you're in the UK? That's one of the things that I tried to figure out today. Everybody's saying it differently, so that's Omicron. Click. Okay, so to become a variant of concern, you have to have genetic mutations known to affect virus characteristics in a bad way for us, in a good way for the virus. Next. There has to be community transmission that's measured. Next. There has to be increased prevalence. Next. And beyond that, there is increased transmissibility. I'm going to call that right now based on the evidence that I see, and we'll let history prove me right or wrong. Next. What we don't know is if there's increased virulence yet. And next. Is there a change in symptoms over other variants? But all these criterion go into giving a variant a letter and it becoming a variant of concern. Okay, next slide. Right, so what do we know about Omicron? First, it has somewhere between 50 and 86 mutations. I've seen various numbers thrown out, and I can't track down any one of them as being definitively correct because there are 0 peer-reviewed publications on Omicron right now. So that's what we know. Now, the part that we're really concerned about is the spike protein, which has 30 to 43 mutations based upon reports right now. This image is of 2 spike proteins, 3D models of them. One is Delta and one is Omicron. And you can see those red areas and the colored areas. Those are all the locations where there's a mutation that's affecting the shape of the protein, which affects how it works. And your eyes don't deceive you. There's a whole lot more color on Omicron than there is on Delta. That's a representation of how many more mutations there are. And it's likely to affect things like the ability of Omicron to open up your cells and get inside. And it's likely to affect the ability of your immune system to identify it as an invader. Next. All right, what else do we know? COVID cases are surging in South Africa. This graphic shows the weekly number of cases. Click. You can see right there in that circle, there's a spike recently. In a survey of all the genetic sequences that they've done of Omicron from Gauteng, South Africa, which is the province where Johannesburg is, so that's a big city in South Africa, which is driving a lot of the data that we're looking at, 100% of all the sample sequence were Omicron, and 77 that were taken. So it's a pretty good sample size. If all of them are Omicron, that's indicating that it's a pretty efficient virus and probably a lot more efficient than Delta to have gone to 100% already. For comparison, here in Texas, the Delta variant makes up 100% of all of the COVID sequences that we're getting right now. And pretty much in most of America, it's 99.9% of all the sequences are Delta. Next. We know that Omicron is spreading globally. It's not just in Africa. We don't even know really where it's from. The reason why it was detected in Africa is because they have a really great sequencing program there, which is how you identify variants in the first place. And this map is probably already outdated. Is it in the United States? Yes, it's guaranteed to be here, even though there hasn't been a sequence yet. It's in North America, it's in Canada, it's in all these other countries. It's most likely here also, and experts agree that it's probably here. Next. You've heard this a couple times already, but the gold standard test, the PCR test, works on Omicron. That's been confirmed. We're not sure about the other tests yet, but that at least lets us know that we'll be able to track as cases change. Next. And what we really know is that we don't know a lot at all about Omicron. So that is this is the least information I've ever given a presentation on since the beginning of the pandemic, because of how good we've gotten at identifying new variants so quickly. There's not a lot of information out there. Next. Okay, so what can we infer? Those last things were what we know. Now, based upon what we know about COVID and viruses and epidemiology and the pandemic, what can we infer? This is probably the most transmissible variant we've seen yet. The last variant that was really transmissible was Delta. That was 50% more transmissible than the variant before that, which was 50% more transmissible than the major variant that came before that. And the reason why I'm concluding this before there's really any peer-reviewed scientific evidence is really based upon this genomic sequencing from South Africa, where there's a spike, and they measured 77 DNA sequences, and they're all Omicron. There were 0 that were anything else. So that's highly indicative that it's highly transmissible compared to Delta. It's probably not from South Africa, even though that's where it was first identified. They have a great program. And it's important not to stigmatize certain parts of the world. It's hard to know where these different variants come from. There's thousands of COVID variants that are out there. There's a small handful that we know of. And by the time we detect them, they've already occurred in a lot of places. Next. Okay, why is there concern? The graphic here is a section of the sequence of Omicron. It's the spike protein section, and every line is one of the mutations according to Stanford. Now, on this graphic, there's a different number of mutations than anything that you've seen before, but it's between 30 and 54. So why is there concern? All these mutations are the concern, and there's people that are modeling these, and they're saying, well, this is changing the shape of the spike protein, and that's highly likely to affect things like antibody effectiveness, vaccine effectiveness, your immune system, even COVID tests, right? That's why there's some concern about that. Increased transmission thus far in the pandemic has been associated with increased virulence. So that's why there's a lot of concern here, because we know that there's increased transmissivity already based upon the little data that we have. Is there increased virulence? We're not sure, but in the past, it's kind of gone hand in hand. And there are obviously a large number of these mutations. That's the big concern here. And you saw that graphic earlier. It's not a couple more mutations. It's more than twice as many mutations in the spike protein as the Delta variant. And it has most of the mutations that the Delta variant has, most of the mutations that the Alpha variant has, and it's kind of like all the variants combined into one. Next. All right, what's possible this winter? I showed this graphic 2 weeks ago. I'm going to show it again. It's updated to today. This is from IHME, which is the preeminent United States COVID modeling outfit in Washington State. And it shows you the winter peak. You've got the summer peak. This is the number of cases per 100,000 people in Texas as a whole. And they have this nice projection where they do 3 scenarios. What happens if 95% of all people masked? And you can see COVID going down to pretty much nothing. They have their projection where things are staying about the same, and that's where we are right now. That's why I decided not to talk about numbers and RT and whatever. COVID is staying about the same, maybe declining slightly here locally. And the red peak is what we're concerned about. The last time I presented this, there wasn't a new variant, but this worst case scenario is if there's a new variant that's more transmissible. Now there's a new variant that seems to be more transmissible, so this worst case scenario, assuming no masking and 2 times the transmission rate, of the Delta variant seems to be closer to the realm of possibility than it was 2 weeks ago, which is why we show this. Next slide. In summary, click. Pandemic's entering a new phase, obviously, too. We have some recommendations here. Number one is don't panic. Click. Remain vigilant. There's no reason to get scared here. It's just another variant at this point. We're pros at dealing with the pandemic, and we know exactly how to handle it. Number one, you get vaccinated, you get boosted when you have the opportunity. The vaccines still work, even if they don't work quite as well on this new variant. I haven't seen anybody say that they're unlikely to work at all. So it's still worthwhile. And there's not just one variant out there, there's a lot of different variants. And in the United States, the Delta variant is the one that's still around. Next. If you're symptomatic, self-isolate, and symptomatic means you got a cough, you're sneezing, you have any sort of cold-like symptoms or flu-like symptoms, that's symptomatic. That's how, if you self-isolate, that's how you stop the spread and stop the chain. If you're positive, after getting tested, go and get the monoclonal antibodies. That helps keep you out of the hospital. And lastly, you don't want to get there in the first place, so mask up in public. Masks work, social distance. I think the graphic that Public Health Director Rodriguez showed was really good with the Swiss cheese, and if you have a lot of layers of Swiss cheese, nothing can get through, or at least it's really unlikely for things to get through. So that's it for today. Next slide. Thank you very much. And after the translation, I think somebody's going to take questions. The judge. Thank you.
El Dr. Chris Bird comenzó con la definición de la variante Omicron, la cual cuenta con las mutaciones genéticas conocidas por afectar las características del virus. Es transmisible a la comunidad, cuenta con un incremento en su prevalencia, así como su transmisibilidad. Aún no se sabe si es más virulento o si tendrá cambios en los síntomas. ¿Qué sabemos sobre Omicron? Cuenta con entre 50 a 86 mutaciones. Los casos por COVID han surgido en Sudáfrica y se estima que los contagios van a ser de manera global. Las pruebas de detección por PCR son efectivas para determinar si una persona está contagiada por esta variante. Aún falta mucho por saber sobre esta variante. Se estima que esta es la variante con más facilidad de transmisión. No se sabe en dónde se originó, pero fue detectada en Sudáfrica. ¿Por qué preocupa esta variante? Porque las mutaciones van a resultar en menos efectividad a las vacunas. ¿Qué se espera en el estado durante el invierno? Que la transmisión sea 2 veces más intensa si las personas no utilizan un cubrebocas, y si lo utilizan, la protección y la disminución en los contagios puede ser de hasta el 95%. Se le exhorta en tomar todas las medidas de salud para evitar contagios y su propagación. La pandemia ha entrado a una nueva fase. Se le pide no tener pánico, pero manténgase vigilante. Si cuenta con síntomas, aíslese. Tome el tratamiento de anticuerpos monoclonales. Utilice un cubrebocas, lave sus manos y tome todas sus precauciones sanitarias.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference with all of our established speakers. I do want to express my gratitude to you for your translation in American Sign Language, as well as to Gabi for translating in Spanish. And so we're here to help answer any questions that you might have. I also want to say that my intention is to have these press conferences every week through the month of December. We need to make certain that we stay informed in order so that we can stay prepared. And I think that we've given lots of great information, but if any of you need any of the slides, if that would be helpful for public messaging, we can provide that for you. Remember, the best holiday card this year is your vaccination card. Are there any questions for you?
I'm a creature of habit, Judge Canales. I went to City Hall today thinking it's a COVID presser. Is there a reason for the change in locale?
Well, really the change in locale had to do with the fact that the city had canceled press briefings. And so I felt with Omicron, over the holidays, I issued a video. That was my version of the press conference from last week. And then this week I said, no, we're going to be in court here on Tuesday. Let's go ahead and do it on Tuesday. And then I extended the invitation to the city, and they graciously accept to join us here today. So that's really the reason, is that I was in court and we were able to extend, a really, I think, an important unified message. As Director Rodriguez said, we are a unified health district right this moment, and we need to stay that way so that we can, really focus on what matters right now, which is putting those 100 folks that work at public health, plus all of our contract workers, plus our emergency management teams, our fire department, as the mayor said with SOS, look, it's going to take all of us to get into what we call, serious preparation mode. It's one thing to get surprised and get caught flat-footed. That's round one. The second thing is to figure out, hey, this thing mutates, and that's Delta variant 2. And remember what happened with Delta variant 2. We had exacerbated hospitalizations. We had exacerbated death greater than 2020 when we had vaccines. So the vaccines are a tool, but what we know is unless our population gets greater than 50% vaccinated, we're susceptible, we're vulnerable. You couple that with an high uninsured population and a high comorbidity rate, it spells trouble. But when you know that the tools that you have work, then our goal is to get in front of it and do the best job we can with public messaging in a responsible way. I think that's what you've seen here today. And by the way, if we hadn't had the city helping us, the whole thing wouldn't have taken place. So that's what's beautiful about being together. Is you get City of Corpus Christi Communications working with Nueces County Communications. We were able to broadcast today over the television, the closed caption TV. We were also able to do KEDT as well. I heard that announced earlier. So it's a good opportunity to work together.
The city and county remain together right now, but the split is coming up in 6-7 weeks or so with this Omicron variant out there. Is there any discussions to maybe push that back a little bit?
Yes, there is.
Expand on that at all? Just like what kind of conversation do you think is likely, or is it still going to, that date is that date?
Well, I'm speaking as the emergency manager of this county, and I believe that it's incumbent upon all of us to make certain that we have enough time to put together a responsible and feasible transition plan. I think that is quite impossible in the time frame that we have, whether we had a variant or not. With a variant, it's irresponsible. Okay, well, thank you so much. We're here for you. I know it's always a major, feat to get all the docs in the room. So thank you for making time to come out, Dr. Ram, Dr. O, and Dr. Blow. So, and Dr. Bird, thank you for the great modeling. And unfortunately, I think you're going to get data here very soon. Thanks again, everybody.